Hey folks, welcome back. Today we're in the kitchen and we are going to make some absolutely killer brownies. But before we do, I've got to prepare myself to do some cooking. Oh man, good cup of coffee. Now we can start cooking. To make some awesome caramel brownies, first you have to make caramel, and this is all you need for scratch-made caramel at home. A saucepan with a wooden spoon, water, heavy cream, salt, sugar, butter, and some measuring spoons. So let's get to making caramel. First you add the water, a quarter cup of water to the saucepan. And then you add the sugar. Turn the heat on. You're wanting the sugar to completely dissolve, and it needs a quarter teaspoon of salt. Now, I've got some interesting spoons here, by the way. You got your tablespoon, you got your 2 teaspoons, your teaspoon. It also has something that y'all didn't know was actually a measurement. I don't know if you can see it, but this tiniest little spoon on here, right there, did you know that a pinch was a measurement? But we don't need a pinch. What we need is 1/4 teaspoon, which is hard to measure, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now, while that is heating up, you want 4 tablespoons of butter. 4 tablespoons is half a stick of butter. And you want to cube it because this is going to have to melt pretty quick. So just slice it up. So slice your half a stick. You're going to have small pieces. because it's got to melt under some pretty low heat and it needs to melt pretty quick. So I just take and slice it up and then cube it up, just little chunks. Doesn't have to be a certain size, need to be small. That's the only size it needs to be, is small. It's going to take about 5 minutes to dissolve all the sugar. You want to bring it to a simmer and make sure all the sugar is dissolved. And it has stuck to the bottom of the pan, but it's not burnt to it. It had just started melting and I had to take a break a minute ago when the phone rang, so it solidified. That's okay. There, now it's broken up. You want to bring it to a simmer, stirring occasionally, but not real often. You do not have to have a candy thermometer, but you do have to pay attention to color. Once the sugar is totally dissolved, which it's not yet, you do not stir again. You don't let the sugar totally dissolve, you will wind up with gritty, crunchy, decent tasting, but the caramel won't be the smooth caramel that we all know and love. Just about to get the sugar all dissolved. I'm actually stirring it more than you need to, but I don't want it to burn. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Doesn't hurt to stir it like constantly. You could use a whisker to stir it constantly and you'd be just fine. Okay. Simmering just a little bit. And the sugar is almost dissolved. Here comes the simple part, but not the easy part. Once it's dissolved, turn the heat up to high and just stand back. What you're waiting on, you're looking for it to turn a deep copper color. Don't touch it. When this is happening, don't touch it. Don't stir it. Don't do anything. That's hard to do, but you just stand back. Watch for that copper color. It is hard to just stand and look at it because we're talking about a matter of a few seconds. It'll go from deep copper colored to burnt. Don't go anywhere. Your phone rings, ignore the phone call. Just stand and watch it and look for your color. Starting to turn just a little bit. Now, while we're watching this, let me warn you on this next step. We're going to put in the butter and we're going to put in the cream. And when you do that, it's going to boil. Not boil bad, but it is going to foam up. Be ready for that. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. That's what's supposed to happen, but it is going to foam up. It's taking a little bit longer than normal because I am using the smallest eye on my stove. It's almost a simmer eye. That's because I wanted to use the eye close to the edge of the stove so I could get the camera looking down into the pot instead of over across the top. Okay, I'm going to move it to another eye with more heat, and it'll be back in just a minute. Okay, we're hitting the color around the edges, not so much in the middle, but we're going to call it right now. Kill the heat. Put the butter in. Start stirring. Add the cream. Heat's off. And stir, 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 stir. Don't scrape the edges, because when you're waiting for that copper color in the middle, those edges get a little bit of burn on them and will have a little bit of a bitter flavor. So don't scrape your edges. Just stir, stir, stir right here in the middle. It's not going to thicken much at this point. It's going to thicken when it cools. But you want to stir really, really good, because you want to make sure that butter and cream is incorporated all the way through. And I don't suggest you try to taste test it at this point. You try to taste test it at this point. Hot sugar, number one, carries heat real good. And number two, get it on you, including on your tongue or your lips. It will stick and the burn will just keep on burning. Okay. Stirred until it is nice and smooth. And that's it. Now we have the caramel on to making the brownies. Here's your ingredients. This will be for a 9x13 pan, and keep in mind there's going to be 2 layers. The caramel will be in between. It's 1.5 cups of butter that's been melted. It's 3 1/4 cups of granulated sugar, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 6 eggs, 2 1/4 cups of flour, 1 1/2 cups of cocoa, and I use Hersheys Special Dark, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Now, notice the eggs are cracked except for that one. That's because I'm going to show you something about cracking eggs. So let's put this all together and make some brownies, okay? Okay, a little trick on cracking eggs. A lot of people, cracking eggs into a bowl like this, will crack the egg on the side. I suggest you don't do that. If you hit it a little bit hard, that edge can drive eggshell up into the egg, and then you're sitting there trying to fish it out. And speaking of fishing it out, I'm going to pour this into my mixer. I can fish shell out of here, but I can't fish shell out of the mixer once it's in there. So don't ever crack your eggs into the bowl you're going to be using to mix stuff. Crack them on a flat surface close by. Even if you're only doing 1 egg, crack it into a really small bowl or a coffee cup or something like that, so that you don't wind up with eggshells in whatever you're mixing it with and can't get them back. So, 6 eggs are ready. To start with, we're going to combine the butter, the sugar, bring that up and get it mixing. If you put the vanilla, since it's got alcohol in it, if you put the vanilla in on top of eggs, it will make them start trying to cook and curdle. So let's get that mixing. And then we want 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Yeah, I slopped a little bit extra. I really like vanilla flavor. Let's let that mix. You let that go until it is smooth. Okay, once that mixture is smooth, you add your eggs. Most recipes that call for eggs tell you to add them one at a time. They don't have to be one at a time. They just can't be dumped all at once. Add a little and wait. Pick your speed up a little bit if you need to. When it gets down in there and the yolks start busting up and there's Lots of yellow being spread around. It's not time to add any more. Once there's no yolk showing in there and it looks nice and smooth and creamy, add some more. Okay, next we have the flour, the cocoa, and the salt. We'll go with the salt first. 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay, when your flour goes in, take your speed on your mixer back down. Not off. Take the speed on your mixer back down. Otherwise, it's going to throw flour all over your kitchen. And when we get to the cocoa, it'll do the same thing. It's real lightweight, and it will get thrown all over the kitchen if you don't have your speed down and do it slow. Now, here comes the awesome goodness. The cocoa. If I didn't mention it, I love dark chocolate, and the only cocoa I use, I can't afford the high dollar stuff like Ghirardelli and that, but I do use, Hersheys does make a dark chocolate cocoa. It's called Hersheys Special Dark. If you ever use it and you like it, pick up 4 or 5 containers, because it disappears every now and then. Hersheys will make it for a while and then they quit. And then they make it for a while and then you can't find it. So if you like it, when you find some on the shelf, grab a bunch. Okay, your oven has been preheated to 350. Make sure it gets fully warm to 350. You don't want it heating up while the brownies are in there. That will burn them. You want it fully warm. The caramel I made a little bit ago had not solidified. It wasn't a hard chunk. It wasn't like brittle, but it was pretty gummy and sticky, so I have had a low heat under the caramel to make it looser and make it pour better. Take your mixture, take your brownie mixture, put half of it in the bottom of a 9x13 pan. Make sure you cover the bottom good, which I didn't here. Make sure you cover the bottom good, about half of the mixture. If you're a little bit thick in some spots and a little bit thin in another, that's no big deal. But pretty much cover the bottom. Otherwise the caramel will ooze out the edges. Alright, then take your caramel and pour it. And you won't be able to do much in the way of spreading, so just pour caramel all over that half of the brownie mixture. You want to get caramel in every bite. Now when you're doing this, make sure you don't scrape the pan too good. You want some of that caramel goodness for you to get a spoon and be eating on while the brownies are cooking. Alright, now when you put the rest in here, you're not going to be able to spread it a whole lot or you'll mess up the caramel. So spread it out in here. Don't dump it all in one place and then think you're going to spread it. You can spread it, but not a whole lot. And just like the caramel, make sure you don't clean the bowl out too good. You want to have some to enjoy while the brownies are baking. Looks like there's going to be a floury bite right there. See how it pushes the caramel around when you try to spread it? So you need to dump it in as much where it's going to be as possible. So you don't have to do any more spreading than absolutely necessary. Yeah, there'll be some caramel oozing out the top. But you know what? I'll bet you even when the caramel's oozing out the top, I will be willing to bet you that it tastes awesome anyway. I'll bet your taste buds won't even know it was oozing out the top. What you want to bet? All right, that's it. You got some caramel to enjoy. You got some batter to enjoy. Well, stick this in the oven so it can be cooking while you're enjoying the batter. You want to cook it for about 25 or 30 minutes. After 25 minutes, I would suggest sticking a toothpick in it or a knife, butter knife, and see if it comes out clean. It won't come out quite as clean as a cake. You know, a cake comes out, if it comes out clean, that means it's done. The batter for brownies being thicker, and not the batter, but the result of being thicker and stickier, it won't be perfectly clean. Toothpick, knife won't be perfectly clean like it is when you do a cake. But let's take a short break. I'm going to be eating on this batter. We'll come back and see what it's like when it comes out of the oven. Well, folks, the brownies are done. I guess we need to see if they're any good. Looks like somebody's been here before I got here, though. They didn't tell me whether they were any good, so I guess I'll have to check them out for myself. Let's see how they turned out. Well, they look good. Let's taste them and see how they turned out. Yeah. Dark chocolate caramel brownies. These things are awesome. The recipe for them is going to be down there in the description. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give it a thumbs down. Tell me why. Smash that subscription button. Hit that little bell so you get notifications. These are good. Y'all go have an awesome day. Me, I'm going to go eat the rest of this brownie as soon as I remind you. Awesome days are easy. All you got to do. No, they're not really easy. They're simple, though. All you got to do is remember two things. The tomb was empty, and he is alive. Now, y'all go have a good day. I'm going to go work on this brownie some.